to the Possibility Perspective with me, Jess. Authentic, bold, and challenging conversations. You'll hear stories from me, conversations with peers, and interviews with experts on a variety of topics, all with different perspectives. Now, let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Today's topic, we are going to go over signs and synchronicities and talk about psychic abilities. And who better to have joining me to talk about this than someone who brings over 27 years of spiritual wisdom and someone who really tapped into her gifts at a very young age. Montana Greene, by the way, just a sign in synchronicity because her name's Montana and I'm from Montana. We'll start right off there.
Excellent example.
The Whispering Leaf Psychic, she does readings. She empowers people on their path of self-discovery and enlightenment. And so welcome, Montana, to the show. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much, Jessica. So great to be reconnected with you again. You're a lovely individual and so excited to be on the show and so excited to also talk about intuition, how we can kind of fine tune that and grow our relationship with our own intuition and therefore the universe to be able to perceive and receive more of the signs that can kind of help guide us in making important decisions in life.
It's, you know, and so before we even get into that, I want to ask you where you land on the, I guess, belief of whether we have these abilities innately within us that we just need to learn and harness, or are some people born with higher intuitive and psychic gifts than others? Like, where do you stand on that?
All of the above is true, but Let me say this. Everyone, if you have a spirit that animates your body, you have intuition, you have psychic ability. You can choose to grow that or you can choose to neglect it. However, it is also true that some people do come through with a stronger ability, the same way that some people come through with stronger athletic ability, stronger ability to make investment banking decisions. And part of the reason for that, in my belief, is because their genetic line, their family line, has been working on that. If you think about psychic ability and really kind of any mastery of any skills or knowledge base, a lot of the time that family line has been working on that generation after generation after generation after generation. And so all that wisdom gets passed down through that DNA. So for some people, yes, they come into the world just a little bit more fine-tuned for that because, again, their lineage has been working towards it. Also, you can check your own birth chart to see if you've got markers that make you more predisposed to using your intuition. But for the common layperson, and I talk to people all over this country, really beyond the United States as well, that all have reported having some really profound psychic abilities, psychic experiences, intuitive experiences. So it is really for everybody. It is your God-given navigation system. So going back to what I said earlier, if you have a spirit that animates your body, you also have that intuitive ability. But again, you can choose to master it, grow it, or you can choose to neglect it. And you have free will, so you can always do whatever you want.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I've read and heard stories of people that, like, sometimes their abilities are so apparent that it's scary a little bit.
It is.
How was that for you coming into, this at such a young age?
For the most part, it was pretty positive, but I have to admit there were times where I saw things that were very scary to me and I didn't really know what to do with it. And honestly, a lot of children experience that. But for me, I was able to perceive energies in places that they weren't related to me. They weren't like my spirit helpers and they were not comfortable ones. So yeah, sometimes it is a little bit scary. But I can honestly say I've never been harmed by any of it. I was just simply aware. And it can be very overwhelming for children to intuitively feel and pick up on other people's emotional distress, or, the cliche of when you walk into the room and the tension is so thick you can cut it with a knife. As an empathic person, you literally feel that in your body. And is that overwhelming? Yes, absolutely it is. So, and that's not to dissuade anybody from growing their intuition, but it is an honest feedback.
Yeah, I like that you used the word overwhelming. That's a better word than the word I used because that's how I've felt at times when not really understanding any of that. But it's exactly what you talk about. Like I've gotten literally emotionally overwhelmed walking into a room before and then had to be like, for years and years and years, just kind of thought I was a lunatic. And then after I learned a little bit about having these abilities, then I was like, okay, got it. Now that I
So good to know you're
understand
not
it.
crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So when we talk about signs and synchronicities, how does this blend in the world of utilizing your intuition?
So we are always in a relationship with the universe. And just really quickly, I'm going to say this. I'm going to use a couple of different titles or names to mean all the same thing. So universe, higher power, higher consciousness, God, whatever title you want to give it, to me, it's all the same thing. So we're constantly in a relationship with it, okay, whether we want to be or not, because we are part of that God particle. We're part of that divine consciousness. So we can never actually be separated with it. So it's like having a conversation with another part of you. Now, when we're asking for signs and synchronicities, and thank you so much for going in this direction, but when we are asking for signs and synchronicities, I do want to kind of state there's multiple different sources that we can be getting that from. One, obviously God, the higher conscious mind, right? Two is our own higher consciousness. So let me go into this really quickly. The best way for me to explain this is I want everyone to imagine a pie chart, like 100% of a pie chart. And if that's your soul's consciousness, 25% of it comes down to earth, breaks off, and has a life known as Jessica. But that other 75% of you, your soul's consciousness, still connected to you through your intuition, through that silver cord, if we want to get more detailed with it. So we're constantly accessing our own higher consciousness. We can also be accessing the divine power, God, the creator. And we can also be accessing our own spiritual team, which is our guardian angels, our spirit guides. Sometimes it's our family and friends that are departed that are also trying to give us little signs and messages to help guide us. So I just wanted to, kind of articulate that there are multiple different sources to be getting those signs and synchronicities from. So if somebody is wanting signs and synchronicities, it's good to kind of specifically ask who you want to get it from. Do you want it from God? Do you want it from your own higher self? Because there's an easy way. You can actually program your own intuition. Say, for example, if I wanted to know from my own higher self, should I go into this business deal that I'm looking at? I'm looking at starting another business. Is this a good thing for me? And so I'm asking my own higher self. When it's your relationship with your own higher self, you can literally code, like computer program code, how you want your intuition to speak to you. So for instance, just as an example for me personally, when things are a yes for me, it's a rush of energy. I literally feel jittery. I feel like I need to go for a walk or go do a thing, right? It's enthusiastic. That's my sign for yes. Also, if it's a no, I'll literally feel the sit back, chill. It's a physical lowering of the energy. What's confusing sometimes is the maybes or the yes, but not right nows, right? And so again, there can be these little sort of hard to interpretate messages sometimes, which is another it's another reason to sit back and kind of give it a little more time, let it percolate, for a lack of a better term. Now, you can also be asking for your departed family members. Like for me, I've got a lot of loved ones on the other side. Like, Dad, tell me, what should I do in this situation? Would you say yes to this? So for example, if it was going to be a sign from like a departed loved one, for me and my dad, we have a code. Every time it's something from my dad, it's going to be something that reminds me of him. He was really big into the USA #1 thing. I think it was like Chevrolet or something. It's literally the #1 with like the American flag inlaid in with it. When I see that, I know it's my dad talking to me.
Yeah.
When I see other things like Native American stuff, so my heritage is Kickapoo, part of that on my mother's side. When it's my grandmother, I will typically always see something that either shows up as a falcon because that's her clan, or other things that remind me of her. So And then when you ask the bigger questions to the greater universe, again, that can come in so many different forms. That's something else I really want to kind of impress upon everyone, is that your intuition and the way that spirit or the universe or God will communicate with you, it will be done through a multitude of ways. It's not going to come through just one way. As in, it may not be that you just see a symbol. It might be that you have a feeling. It might be that you hear something or have a thought or a memory that pops into mind. So we need to be open to receiving these messages through all channels. Hearing, impressions, feelings, thoughts, things that you read, conversations that you may have with other people, and just impressions. So it's never just one way.
I like that you said open, because so here's where I've personally gotten stuck, and I think you just cured it for me. Because so
my work here is done.
So I've subscribed to that, like, okay, show me a sign, but I wasn't clear. And B, I've heard the, like, well, just pick something that you want to be shown, like pick a pineapple. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, pineapple, like, show me a pineapple. And then I'm like, don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. And then, like, talk to that. Like, what happens with that?
So the whole instance of, I've asked for a sign and I'm not getting it. Okay, let's use pineapple, even though I have to be honest, every time I hear that, I think of a movie scene where pineapple was the safe word.
That's great.
Pineapple. All right, so say you ask for a sign and you want it to be a pineapple, but Spirit is like, man, pineapple has nothing to do with this ordeal or this situation that she's involved in, right? It's kind of like, it's just not really relevant. So Spirit will, instead of showing you a pineapple, will show you something that's more relevant to this situation.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, I think when we and it's very understandable to say, okay, if it's a yes, show me a pineapple. But what we're doing is excluding all the other ways that Spirit can communicate with us. So It's like closing all these other doors and then waiting for this one little opportunity to come through. So it's like putting, the universe's hands behind its back. So it is important to be more broad sometimes. So again, I'm going to use examples of, like, yes, no, do something or don't do something, right? So be very broad with it. If I'm asking a question, should I go into this business deal? Should I get into this relationship? Should I do XYZ thing? Leave it a little bit broad. If it's a yes, make it something that feels encouraging and kind of action-oriented, whether that's seeing a bird flying, whether that's seeing a group of motorcycle people whiz past you, right? So it's anything, let it be a little bit more broad there. Those really fine-tuned, like, it has to be a pineapple, that's a little bit more advanced level. And in my opinion, I think that we should strengthen our relationship, one with our own intuition, our own spiritual team, and the universe, before we get really, really precise with, like, it has to be a pineapple.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, because, I think there's a trust factor missing in there when you're like, it's almost like you're like, for me, and I could probably guess other people who, like, feel like they're struggling or it doesn't work or whatever, that, right? It's the lack of trust, that you're not trusting your own self. You're not trusting your feelings. You're not trusting. And so then you're closing it off to this only one possibility that it could ever be. And then you kind of throw your hands up if it doesn't work.
Yeah. And that's so true too. In the respect, doubt is essentially saying no. It's closing it off. So I will also say that I think the number one enemy to intuition is overthinking, and overthinking is really a form of doubt. Also, I do want to say this. I'm working on a course to teach people how to tap into their intuition on a very daily basis. Not going to be ready for a while, because I'm a Virgo rising, so all the details have to be right. Anyways, for your intuition, it's flow state. So if I was going to give you a quick little cheat, here's that cheat. Okay, listen up. This is what it is. You need to be in the flow state. The flow state is characterized by alpha and theta brainwaves, not those busy beta brainwaves. When we're in hyperthinking, when we're stressed out, when we're needing everything to be perfect, that's the busy beta brainwaves, and that is coming out of the left logical side of the brain. That is not where your intuition is found. Your intuition, your imagination, your creativity, all of that, that flow state, that's all right brain. So it's got to be in the right brain waves, so alpha and theta. Now, we go into alpha and theta brain waves all the time, but if you want to train your brain, which I highly suggest people do, it is done through literally accessing those brain waves through stress management, through meditation, breathing. Here's a super simple one. Light a candle, set a timer on your phone for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, however long, and just stare at that candle flame for that 10 minutes. Let whatever thoughts come into your mind, let them come in. It's not your job to censor them or filter it. Your job is just to focus in on that candle flame. Now, what you're doing is you're not getting intuitive downloads during that time. What you're doing is training your brain waves to get out of busy beta and into the deeper, slower alpha ones. And it does require training. Just like if you were to go to the gym, it requires training to get your form down, to build your strength, to refine and master those skills. We live in a very overstimulated society, so it could take some people longer than others to be able to achieve on command alpha or theta brainwaves.
I love that you shared that because that's me. I'm overthinker to a T. Like there's
and everybody else.
I know, right? So I think I've talked about this on a couple episodes, but it's more apparent to me the more I'm delving into some of these things and working on myself, right? You're like, oh boy, okay, that's why you do these things. And so that idea of, okay, yeah, letting trust in and having like practical exercises like you just shared to train your brain, because I think that's a thing that we do. Also, we label ourselves as something and then that just kind of is, but that's not really the way it has to be.
Correct. Yes. Thank you for touching on that, what you self-identify as. So years and years ago, my degree was in 2008. That is actually the reason why I got into hypnotherapy, is exactly that reason. When people self-identify as something, they've now closed the door to everything else and they put themselves in this box. And then every day they tell themselves over and over again, oh, I'm just not intuitive, or I'm just not that winner, or I'm just not that person. And we literally hypnotize ourselves on a daily basis our entire lives, okay? So how you talk to yourself is incredibly, incredibly important. The most important voice truly is your own. So if you want better intuition, I would suggest reframe how you're talking to yourself. Maybe it's, I'm struggling with my intuition right now, but that could change. Or I remember one time where I struggled with it, but today it feels better. But we want to box ourselves into saying, yeah, I just never get messages. Oh, I just can't trust my intuition. Because then you were programming your subconscious mind to block that all out. So you are just sabotaging yourself by continuing to identify as not having those abilities or doubting it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So how would you describe like a day in a life of somebody that's just tapping into their intuition like throughout the day, all day long? Like what does that look like to somebody who's trying to do this?
Okay, devil's advocate, if you're tapping into it all day long, you're probably not getting too much done.
Okay, true.
Because we do need a blend, okay? Life is about balance. Sometimes we do need to be in that logical left brain, right?
Right.
But typically when you're in that flow state, and you can be productive in the flow state, but that means when you get up in the morning, the first thing you're going to do is not look at your cell phone, not let somebody else get in there and program your head, but set some intentions for your day. Like gratitude of, I'm so grateful that my intuition is so strong. I am so grateful for all the ways that my spiritual team or the universe has helped me out, right? So you'll start your day out in that intention and with that kind of verbiage. Also, when you go down to start your breakfast or whatever you do first thing in the morning, how does your body feel about what you're reaching for? Okay. I understand we have a very, very overstimulated, very busy society, but are you reaching for something that doesn't feel good for you? You know, like you can kind of feel that your body's like, I don't really want this, I don't know, James, processed food breakfast, right? But you reach for it anyways because you don't have time. That is another way of not being in the flow state. Whereas if you were in the flow state, you'd be going, you know, I know this is my habit, but I don't feel like my body really wants this. I'm going to reach for something else. Also, maybe when you get up, you're feeling, God, my body's really tight. Like maybe you need to move around a little bit more, or not immediately go from one sedentary position in bed to another sedentary position. Also, throughout the day, while you're driving, you're still going to be paying attention to where you're going, but you're also going to be paying attention to how things feel. Now, here's the thing about intuition and all subtle energy. It is exactly what they say. It's subtle. It is subtle, okay? So it is that very subtle feeling. Also, when your intuition is speaking to you, rarely is it, hey, screaming and yelling at you. Sometimes it will, but the majority of the time, very subtle. So it could be, say, for example, you're driving into work and you just hear this, you should take a right turn instead of the left. Maybe you don't even know why. Maybe that left turn is your daily habit and you don't know why you're hearing that. But if you were in that flow state and you were being intuitive, you would just take the right and just see what happens. So it really is about listening to that very quiet, that very subtle feeling, and not overthinking it so much, not overriding it, because overriding is huge as well. All of us do it. I've got a great story. Can I share this?
Yes,
really
yes,
quick?
please.
All right. So I as a self-honoring, self-love for me, I always make sure that I have something really cool, something memorable for my birthday, right? So it's something I plan for myself. One year I planned to add to a tattoo that I have on my back. So, and I was super excited about it. That was my big moment for the day. That was going to be my gift to myself. And I'm driving in towards that studio to go get this done, and I'm on this single lane highway, and two semi trucks come in and block my path. And I heard it, I knew it. I looked at that, I'm like, oh, I was already running late. I was actually texting the tat artist, like, hey, you know, I'm running a little bit behind. And then these two semis get out there, and there's no way to pass because it's, you know, just single lane, other way. So I heard it that this was my little sign not to go through with this. And what did I do? I overread it because that's what I had planned, and dang it, I had already made up my mind. So I was getting that tattoo even if I was showing up 15 minutes late. I was just going to do it. So now I've got a addition to my tattoo that is definitely subpar, that I do not like, all because I would not listen to what my intuition, I would not heed the message from the universe that was clearly blocking my path, like quite literally with two semi trucks. So oftentimes we get this, but we override it. You know, we're bullheaded, and we're committed to doing things the way that we always do it, or the way that we had planned. And who knows? Would have been better if I hadn't have.
That's such a lesson, and because I think that's so relatable to all of us. When there's like, you have an intention and you want to do something, and then it's just sometimes it's roadblock after roadblock after, right? And you're pushing this boulder up a hill. And so anyone listening to this, if that's ever happened to you, because it probably has, stop for a second. Like, just stop for a second and be like, wait a second. Okay, if all of these things keep getting in my way from getting to or achieving X, just maybe there's a reason. Like, I think that's like one of the simplest forms of like signs and synchronicities. Like, oh, maybe there's a reason, because I subscribe to the belief that things that are meant to be aren't necessarily that difficult. Like, I don't have to kill myself pushing a boulder up a hill to achieve X. How do you feel about that?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes and no. Now, I totally agree. If you're continuously getting roadblock after roadblock after roadblock and literally nothing is working out, and you feel like it's draining your energy, okay? Key point. Keep that in mind, draining your energy. If you feel like you're pushing that boulder up and you're making zero progress and you physically feel ill or run down, stop. Maybe that is literally the universe saying, you're not prepared to do this right now. It could be just a no for right now, or it could be just a no, but stop, reevaluate. But I also want to say this. There is kind of this little belief out there that if it's not perfectly easy, if it's not butter and rainbows and butterflies, then that's the universe telling me no and to give up on my dream. And when in reality, that's not always true either. Sometimes what's happening is you are learning the experience of self-discipline or learning how to master a skill. All of those things require some damn effort, right? So hardship and being challenged, but still feeling energized, but still feeling enthusiastic about it, then go, okay? You know, learn the skills, implement the self-discipline to make that achievement happen. But if you're getting doors slammed in your face and you literally cannot will yourself to do it anymore, that's a clear no. That is a clear no. Also, when the physical body starts to suffer, I mean your energy level, I mean your mental health, I mean your emotional health, this is another sign of it's a no. This may not be for you or not the right time, but cease, desist, and reevaluate. Again, our bodies, I love to make this example, but our physical bodies, spirit and pure consciousness communicates through our physical body the same way the internet communicates through your cell phone, okay? So your body is the device the same way your iPhone is the device, right? And you're running this energy. So if your body is feeling like, man, you just can't make it happen, maybe it's because you're not supposed to make it happen.
Yeah.
So do heed how the physical body feels. I also think another big problem in our society is we're a little disassociated from what our physical bodies need. And I'm not just talking about you need calcium and vitamin D and sunshine. No, it's way more than that, right? How does your body feel when you're engaging in that activity? How does your body feel when you think about creating this or doing that or hanging out with this person? Because science truly has kind of explained this a lot better now and give it more credence, but our gut and our brain very much interconnected. So when your gut is like, oh, I don't feel so good about this, listen to it. Please listen to it.
Yes.
So, you know, your body is very much inside of your energy field. So if it sucks energy from you, that's a no. But if it gives energy to you, even if that means you've got to work, that's still a yes.
Yeah.
And I recently had a client that was talking about exactly this. She wants to do public speaking and she tried it and things didn't go to her expectations, right? And so she felt, it didn't go to my expectations. This is the universe telling me I should just give up on this dream that I've had for 15 years. No. It means get better at it. It means refine, learn more. You're still enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, there's a big difference in how you feel about it, because you're right. I mean, if we want to, give up after every obstacle ever, then we'll never do anything.
We'll never do anything worthwhile.
Yeah, so it's really tapping, it's again, going back inward and going to how you feel. I think that's kind of the commonality among everything we're talking about here is trusting yourself and going into your own feelings about it, and then also asking your guides and other sources for signs along the way. But I think, to me, my takeaway from this is the core is going in and trusting yourself and your feelings.
Can I speak on that just a little bit more too? We live in a very exciting time. We live in the information age. You can go on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all these different platforms and get a lot of really great and meaningful information and advice on how to interpret signs and synchronicities and yada yada. But I do want to say, just remember, just because somebody else has told you, if you see a falcon, this is what it means, throw that away. Okay? Use that as a guide, but that should not be your definitive guide. Trust how you feel about it. What was the first thought that came to mind when you saw it? What's your association with it? So I'm going to use the example of the falcon again. Now for us, that's very empowering, right? That's our people, that's our symbol. Whereas I was talking to another person I know who's like, oh, falcons are predator birds. They're terrible. So their association with the falcon is negative, whereas mine is very empowering. So who would be right? whatever person is interpreting the sign is whoever is right. If she feels that that's a bad omen, then that's a bad omen for her, right? Because that's what her association is. That's what her and her higher self has created to mean. Whereas for me, it's positive. Great, that means go for it. That means be laser locked and seek out your prey, be the hunter, that type of thing. So just because you've seen a YouTube video or a TikTok or read a book or whatever that said, when you see this symbol, it's negative or it means always this. No, use that as a guidepost, but always let your own inner authority be your authority. We're in the age of Aquarius, are very much coming up into it, and that means we don't outsource our authority in decision making anymore. It is yours. What does it feel like to you?
That is okay. So with the risk of opening up another box of conversation, but that goes along the lines of creating your own reality, because I've thought about that a lot with superstitions and this, and to me, that's just always been who I am. I'm always like, that only has meaning because you're giving it meaning. I don't know that for me, that has to have that same meaning. And that's just kind of what you said too about signs.
And that opens another great door, if we can talk about that a little bit too. When you're asking for a sign, I think it is always best to ask for something in the positive, something in the negative. Again, we're going to make it easy as a take action, yes, or a don't take action, no. So if you're going to say, should I go into this business deal, and if I should, show me red Ferraris, but if I should not, okay, and this is also important, but if I should not, then show me black trucks or black boxes or something that's like negative or down or low, okay? That way, because we do create our own reality. If you'll notice, like when say you're expecting a baby, all of a sudden you look out in the world and you notice everybody that's pregnant. Say you buy a brand new car, now you notice everybody else that's got that same car or whatever else. So that reticulating activation system in the brain is very powerful. Science has proven this, which is why you have to give an option. If it's a yes, show me red sports cars. If it's a no, show me black trucks. What do you see the most of?
Yeah, absolutely.
But we absolutely do create our own reality, which again is another way to say that we can also program how our intuition and our consciousness communicates with us. If you can create your reality, you can also create, when it's a yes for me, I feel a tingle in my right hand. When it's a no, I feel it in my left. Or it's a yes when I feel energized and it's a no when I don't. So again, you can code it. This is a simulation in my belief, in my opinion. So you can code it like a computer program, but we do absolutely create our own reality, which is yet another reason why you should be very careful with how you communicate to yourself. If you're always self-identifying as somebody that does not have intuition or can't connect, that's what you just coded. That's what you just programmed.
Yeah, absolutely. So you alluded to a course that's coming. Tell us a little bit more about other ways you work with people. How can they work with you? How can they find you? All of that good stuff.
So the best way to locate me is through my website. I don't love social media at all. So my website is whisperingleafpsychic.com. And so you can email me there. You can book appointments there. Currently, what I offer, of course, is psychic medium readings. And I do past life regression, which is so fascinating, as well as a service that's called Hypno Reiki that helps to clear out your energy field and helps you tune into your intuition better. So that is currently what I offer, but I am also working on creating a course to help people in a very just mundane, easy to follow format way to strengthen their own intuition. That will not be out for a while because, like I said, I'm definitely a perfectionist with things, and I want to make sure that the products that I turn out are top notch. So, yeah, that'll be a little while. Very excited for it, but it'll be a while.
So all of you, if you're interested in getting a reading with Montana or clearing out your energy, I highly recommend getting in touch with her. I'm also linking everything in the show notes here so you can easily access her. Before we wrap up, final thoughts and words as we're in a new year where, people are working on themselves or thinking about their future, what they want to be, what they're doing. Any final thoughts and words of advice for everyone?
Build a relationship with your intuition. Build a relationship with the universe. Now, you always have a relationship, but I want you to think about it like a friendship. If you have a friend that you never invest in, that you never call, that you never spend time with, that you never think about, how much are you really going to get from that friendship, right? So what I'm telling you is invest in it. Communicate on a daily basis, even if you think you're just talking to yourself. Again, morning intentions are very good for this. Setting intentions before you go to bed, noticing and appreciating when things go right for you. Build that relationship with the universe like it is your friend, because it truly is, right? Also, your own intuition. Yes, there's going to be times where you're going to be totally dialed in and it's going to be precise, and there's going to be times where you make a mistake, because it's like learning a new language, and it's going to be that way with everything. Every time we are learning a new skill, you're going to have some whoopsies. Don't feel bad about yourself just because you didn't get something right that one time when you were learning, okay? But trust that intuition first and foremost by learning how to calm down your brain waves so that you can focus on what it feels like in your body. And then do pay attention to how your body feels and how things subtly make you feel as you make the little choices that you do throughout your day. And if you need any help, give me a call. Again, visit my website. That is the best way to contact me, which is whisperingleafpsychic.com.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, being here, having this conversation. I appreciate you.
Oh, likewise. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, I hope everyone has a beautiful 2025. And it will be an opportune time to use your intuition, because astrologically speaking, the North Node moves into Pisces, which is a very spiritual, intuitive sign. Also, I foresee an awful lot of propaganda. Big surprise, right? We've had just high dosages of propaganda and fake events for multiple years now, but around that March, April, May of 2025, and then again in July, it's going to be pretty heightened. So don't believe everything that you see out there, but do tap into what does it feel like for you. And another quick little word on that, when it's your intuition, that is definitely not overthinking. Overthinking comes from that left brain. Your intuition is just like, remember in school when we were taking those standardized tests, you want to go with the first thing that comes to you.
Perfect.
And it's subtle and it's quiet.
Absolutely. I know that from my own experience. It's every time my first instinct was always the right one, whether I actually went with that or not. That was always the right one.
Yep. Very true.
All right, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching and listening, and we will see you next time. Thanks for listening to The Possibility Perspective on Transformation Talk Radio. For more information about the show, you can subscribe to the podcast. Visit thepossibilityperspective.com.